Okay, boom.
Peep this.
Now it should be going live.
On the book, right?
Yes.
I'm going to give it a couple refreshes.
And we got to get Leo in the shot.
Oh, here we are. We on here.
Is it working?
Totally loud this week. All right, so I'm going to share this to a page. That's me. I'm going to share it to Remember Jones.
Here, we'll move it over a little bit. Leo's got to be on there. There you go. That looks like it's working. You're showing off your shoes?
Mm-hmm.
Great. I think we're good.
I think I'm posted. Let's see if any weirdos watch.
All right. All right, we'll go for it. Sorry.
So where is the camera?
Yes.
There's the camera right in front of my face. Okay, good. It's adding 10 pounds, Leo.
I hope not.
You didn't tell me that would happen.
Suck it in.
So,
The whole time.
for an hour. Welcome to the...
Baby breath.
Boom.
All right, I'm going to get off that. Unless
Okay.
unless we're fielding questions here.
Ah, all right, everyone. Sorry for no theme song. I know Ming will pipe it into the SoundCloud version afterwards. Welcome to Totally Local Podcast. I am your host, as always, Andrew Topat, and with me today, as always, is Leo.
Hey, everybody.
Hi, and our special, wonderful, super guest.
Super excited.
It is.
What a get.
Now, do you just embody Remember Jones? Is that what you go by when you meet people? Do they call you Mr. Jones, or do you just go by Anthony? What do you feel comfortable with?
I go by Anthony to my peeps, people that I know. But on the stage, Remember Jones.
Okay, cool.
Yes.
Leo, could you do me a favor and close the door? I forgot to close it.
Oh, great. Great start to the show.
Oh, well.
Yeah, Leo, why don't you go outside the door, close the door,
Conversation here.
and don't come in?
They're like, working on the building. I don't want them like peeping what we're doing.
But yeah, no, it's remember Mr. Jones. I get a lot, or Jones. I get a lot from people. But or a lot of people say, "Who's Jones?" If I say Remember Jones, they're like, "Okay, well, who's Jones?"
Just remember.
Yeah.
Jones.
But no, remember as a first name. I thought that was cool.
Yeah, no, it is. I remember seeing you at the old Lanes years and years and years ago.
rip.
Oh man,
Rest in peace.
Yeah,
Never
it was
forget.
such a fun venue, such a fun time. And even then, you just have a personality. It's not just about a band. Like we were talking, we had a whole podcast before we had this podcast, but we were talking before, like, it takes that personality, that stage presence to kind of put yourself out there. And Leo says I ramble a lot in the beginning, so I'll keep this short because I want to hear more from you. But, it's the reason I wanted to have you on here was because I just felt that you got a lot going on, and if I didn't get you on this podcast now, I don't think you'll have time for little old me, by the end of the summer.
Well, speak the truth. You asked me a year ago.
Yeah.
And here I am today.
Yeah, it took a while. I had to get Leo to co-host the show, so you'd be like, "Oh, okay, I'll be on it now." Leo's there.
That was it.
That was it.
You're welcome.
Got the street cred.
You're what they call in the biz a good get. So whatever it took, I think it worked out pretty well.
Thanks. Yeah. No, it's a crazy time for me and stuff.
Is it about to get crazy with the spring coming? And
Yeah. It's funny. I say this a lot. I'm so busy working on what we're currently doing, but also what's happening down the line every day. There's different. Maybe it's just because of what we've sort of built. We have original music and stuff, but we have commissions or things like that people want to see us do, or even me doing theater or different things like that. So I have to kind of navigate all of this stuff and be smart at the same time. I don't want to inundate. I don't want to do too much. I don't want to do too much that I can't physically do, which is I've had to learn that. But it's money. It's
It's a
spotlight,
business.
It's right. It's a business. We have a national agent. We're all over the country. Like that's a real thing. So there's people who want something in San Francisco, which we were dealing with this morning. But I'm like, ooh, I got this thing I still got to do in Jersey. Like, how do you make that your work? So it's a good problem.
Where was the point where you were like, a good problem? Where was the first point where you were like, oh shit, I got a really good problem here? Like where you had so much coming in that you realized this isn't just Saturday night, like at Langosta, this is like national. This is getting bigger.
Well, probably last year. It was like okay, this is happening in this kind of way, and this is not going to stop. But even before that, I think I had my sights on that kind of thing. The first time we played in Chicago was like 2016, I guess, and sold out.
That's crazy.
You know, and did kind of a run of shows where everything was like really packed, and I'm like, okay, if I don't keep up with this momentum now, you know, nobody's doing it for me.
And that's part of it too, is the momentum. You could be as great as great can be, but if you don't keep up when it's there, when you're riding that wave, you can't just wait for the next wave to come. You kind of have to take the opportunity as it's there.
Yeah, totally. I mean, you always have to be looking at like the future stuff too, because if you're not, it's just, you know, it's a thrill. You know, it's great. It's so exciting. All this stuff is like really amazing, but it is a lot of work, and it's a lot of pressure. And if you can't really stay on top of that, you're just gonna. It's easy to sit back on the couch. You know, it's easy to kind of not.
It's so easy. Oh
right,
God, it's so easy.
I love it, and I don't get it enough. But
it's not worth it. You don't need it, man.
Well, not yet. You know, I say that to myself every day, and then I'm passing out. I kind of having a hard time. But no, it's you know, for the past year or two, it's been. You know, absolutely full time. There's no question.
So why don't you tell us about how this all started? Like, we know where you are now, but like, how did you get to this point?
I've always sang. You know, that's always been like a part of my life. But I've always felt like being a personality was a little bit more of my thing, or maybe that's my instrument. Whereas some singers play guitar, play piano, or something. I thought, you know, the sort of personality in me, or the stage presence was kind of my thing. And my real name's Anthony D'Amato, but there's another Anthony D'Amato who's also from New Jersey, who's singer-songwriter, and he's touring a lot. And you could dig through the archives, and there's pictures of us, or even us singing together a couple times, which I'm sure we'll do again. Really talented. He's on New West Records, and he's doing a lot of really cool stuff. But it became a problem with marketing, and it became a problem with booking agents and things like that. People were booking me, but really wanted him, or vice versa.
Oh, wow.
It was a nightmare. Back when MySpace was the thing, they combined our two profiles. You know, because I was doing music too, you know. So then all of a sudden one day we woke up like, what the fuck is it? You know, there's
sharing one profile.
Yeah,
it's like a sci-fi horror movie. What are we gonna do?
It was really bizarre. So, you know, I knew I had to make a change, and I always thought in the back of my head I could do some sort of persona, you know, like a Lady Gaga or a Freddie Mercury or even a David Bowie. Like, I thought that is easy for me to do. But it was always strange for me to perform a name that wasn't myself, because I always felt very authentic to my performances. But it's a heightened version of me anyway on stage, you know, and I Remember Jones became a thing. It took me a while to figure out a name, but I kept wanting something people would remember. I kept saying that over and over again. I'm like, that's fucking pretty cool. Remember, it's like, it's just good, you know, and you can't forget it. Literally, you're gonna hear that name, and you get the nostalgic throwback out of that. You know, the Jones thing is just like a music family name. It's also, I like the Jones, you know, like two Jones, you know, jonesing for something.
Yeah.
And so it became for me like not only a name, but this could be a brand, and I started kind of envisioning it everywhere. And I just went for it, because I would have been stuck with it for, you know, years, going, oh, it could be this or it could be that.
Yeah.
But just go.
And that's the brand, and you kind of, that's the whole point of having a brand, is just to focus on something that other people could focus on. So it's worked pretty well for you, I think, so far.
Crazy. I mean, even like the first two shows we did in Asbury Park, which you saw at the Lanes, you know, the Asbury Lanes, which for me was, you know, an institution.
Yeah.
Like, that shit was the best. You know, I put 25 people on stage as one of my first shows, and that was, you know, a plan. How do we bring something like this, like some sort of orchestral or some sort of vibe, into this kind of a dumpy place, you know?
How do you coordinate? Do you just want to like? Are you just like you're just up there? Everyone's just like herding cats, and you're just like, oh, like how do you? Do you rule with an iron fist, or are you like the nice guy? Like, where do you lean?
It's like a thin line, you know, because I love to collaborate, and I want to work with people because of what they can bring to the table and stuff. So, you know, you still have to have a vision, and you have to have, with a large group of people, some of the management or director skills. So with my theater background, I think I've, you know, understood how to be a director. I've directed a lot of theater. So that's kind of how I go in with, you know, I expect people to bring to the table what I would bring to the table as a performer, but as a director, I would like you to work within these lines.
Yeah.
You know, so that kind of works a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't work for everybody.
Yeah.
You know, and that's not everybody's style of a band or something like that. But you know, I would say I'm the sort of like the vision person.
Yeah.
But then you know, all of the members have really swayed that in many directions. You know, even in this conversation, you could come up with something that's just going to change it in the direction I didn't even think we were going to go in, and I like that, and I want to go with that. I want to be submissive to that stuff sometimes, but you know, it changes. It changes all the time, and we have different iterations of Remember Jones and different shows that we do, which have been other people's ideas or my inspiration of the month. You know, like you got to kind of go with that, and that's what feels most authentic. So I don't want to force something.
Where did so when you first started out and it was just you, when did you get the idea to incorporate a bunch of other people, a bunch of musicians, a big band to be a part of this thing that you were building?
Maybe that's part of my theater thing too. You know what I mean? Always working with like a large crew, and I've directed Hair. I've been a part of that show, Jesus Christ Superstar. I mean, most rock musicals like I've done, Rocky Horror Show. So having that, you know, collab of like a team of people was kind of ingrained in me. But music I liked was always big sounds, Earth, Wind and Fire, you know, all Joe Cocker stuff, Tina Turner. They are touring with a huge band, Aretha Franklin, horn sections, all that stuff. So that was like music to me, and that's what I always knew I wanted. I also thought, you know, why compete with people in the same location? Is there a way to bring everybody together to move yourself out of, you know, let's say Asbury Park or New Jersey or whatever? Is there a way to kind of have us all collaborate in a way that supports each other, have a vehicle to move us out of here to therefore help everybody with their own things too, you know? So that was my initial thought of this. Let's get a big group together and let's become a sort of a collective or a company and work on that. Doesn't work all the time, because people have different thoughts and goals and things like that. But that was my thought, and it does work in a lot of ways. You know, it helps sell tickets when you got 25 people in a band, but sometimes it doesn't either. You know, It's just. But that's what I want. You know, right now as an artist.
Yeah, there's all these different you know, personalities that you're dealing with, and I'm sure you've come across, you know, I'm assuming you've come across, you know, what about me? Like, you're the head of the band, you're the person there, and you must have dealt with very talented people, but at the same time, they're like, well, what about me? Like, how do I fit into this? Why isn't it kind of, you know, what about Remember Gary? Why can't Gary be remembered, you know?
Yeah,
like,
that shit's tough because everybody's so talented, and everybody, I want to work with people who also have their own shit going on. So I've always been very understanding of that, as long as they're understanding of this, you know. So as long as you collaborate and respect both of the things, it can always work together. But if somebody has a different goal or a different life path, you know, you got to go and do your thing. I can't force you to do it. But it has popped up, you know, a couple times. I get this from a lot of people who come to see the shows, that they feel like I throw it to everyone in the band. Like they know who they are because of the camaraderie that I have with them. And because I could make it a show where it's all about me and these are people who are just, you know, bodies. But no, I want them to be engaged, and I want them to show off because that's why I want to work with them too. But some people have said that's not enough for them, and they want this or they want that, or they, you know. So it's tricky. It's definitely a tricky thing.
You're definitely navigating it. I mean, the my favorite show that you've done. I mean, I hope it's been in the last year, but my favorite one that stands out is the Alanis Morissette show.
Oh yeah.
That, like, I would read about it, I'd see it in like Tri-City or somewhere, I'd be like, oh, that sounds cool, and then one day, you know, it was me and my wife and our friend, and we were sitting down, we started talking about Alanis Morissette. I'm like, when is that show? I was like, oh crap, that's today. We went over there and had the best, it was just awesome, it was the best time.
I love Alanis Morissette. I just tell you, everybody, and I have not seen this show, so now, is there a possibility that you'll do this again?
So
you got so many things going on.
Well, always. I mean, for me, that was a one day, like, oh my God, we should do this, because I just revisited the album, you know, and I hadn't in a long time.
So good.
It's so good.
My God, so good, and like so groundbreaking, and it's actually helped me as a vocalist better understand my own voice, because that's a unique voice.
Yeah.
You know, that's not a typical voice, and the production on it is so great. I mean, the songwriting is amazing, but it made me feel more comfortable. So in listening to that, I said, oh, I think we should do this because nobody's touching that music. Or they're touching a couple of the hit songs in a cover band style, but nobody's really
hit
doing
on
it.
something, too. The people were going nuts.
Yeah,
they were, like, excited.
Oh,
yeah.
Crying people. I mean, it was
wild.
There was all the angsty girls in the front just weeping, but like, and Leo weeping right next to them. But me too. I mean, we even as like a band, and I had a lot of female guests. All the guests were female.
And that's what I was referring to is like you incorporated all these different people into it.
They were. I mean, the energy of that show was
so cool,
one of a kind, and I think everybody just came to show up to kill it, and I loved that. My issue with that right now is they're making a musical. It's going to Broadway, so I try not to compete with that kind of thing.
Do you record those shows like just for your own, like just to have it?
Sometimes,
Unfortunately,
it's like the last thing you think about. Sometimes.
You got other things to think about.
Because we're working so hard on getting it right and finding the because we're not just showing up playing songs. It's a show, and the flow takes extra rehearsals and things like that. So then we're like, oh yeah, we should have plugged in and recorded that. So there's really nothing of that. I'd love to do it again. I'm sure we will.
Well, I mean, that brings up a good point. You started this project. You have a huge band, 25 people in it. You're making your own music, but you also do these specialty shows. So we know you did Alanis Morissette. Tell us about some of the other specialty projects that you did and where that inspiration came from.
So, like as an original band project, we're 12 people right now.
Okay.
So at any time, I'm working with 12, which is still a lot.
That's a lot.
With the 3 horns and background singers and 2 keyboard players. I mean, it's a project. But then we create these events that initially start as one night because we could fall on our face.
Right.
And then have progressed. The first time we did the Amy Winehouse show, which is probably the biggest one that we've got, we do the whole Back to Black album, start to finish, with all the B-sides, which was all the stuff she did with the specials and Toots and the Maytals and all that stuff. I mean, we've done that in like 20-something states, now. And we've pared that down to just 12 people, but the first time was 25, when we did it at the Lanes. And a few times in Asbury Park after that, which I love. I mean, you don't get to hear that anywhere. Yeah. There's no one else doing that anywhere else with as many people and as lush and as large as that sounds. Yeah. So to be a part of that experience, which the audience is a huge part of that experience, is really a one-of-a-kind thing. So that's what I'm trying to do. Their experiences and their kind of how you feel when you first heard that record is what I want people to do. So we also have we did Jeff Buckley, the whole Grace album, which was awesome, with Gary Lucas on guitar, who played on the album and wrote 2 of the songs with Jeff Buckley. Wow. 808s and Heartbreak.
I was just gonna say, on the way over here, there was some old Kanye on the radio, and I'm like, oh, it reminded me that you're doing this show coming up.
Which that's a weird flex for a lot of people, but it's my favorite Kanye album. It's not a lot of people's favorite Kanye album. It's his album. It's his 4th one. It's his most experimental one in terms of he didn't give a fuck what people thought. He was just doing it.
He's nutty, but he's talented, and you can't. If you deny that, then you're kind of denying the fact that you're going too much on what the media is saying. You're not paying attention to the music.
And there's a lot of people who said, "Oh, I love Remember Jones, but hate Kanye, so I'm not going." I said, "Well, he ain't going to be there, so I don't really know what you're worried about." And a lot of fans we did this last year for the first time for the album's 10th anniversary, which was cool. A lot of fans came who have no idea about Kanye West and probably thought in the back of their head, I'm not going to like this, and loved it. Yeah. I mean, you're still coming to a Remember Jones experience, so it's still going to be some sort of artistic slide. There's still going to be a lot of talented people on stage, and that album is, more of a pop album than anything else. There's not as much hip-hop on that. And then at the end, we do an encore set of, some old Kanye stuff, and Kanye's workout plan, like, we have to do live, and it's amazing with the girls, it's just outrageous. And that, incredible audiences when we did that. So we're bringing it back for the kind of anti-Valentine's Day weekend vibes at Brooklyn Bowl and House of Independence. And
you're doing it both places?
Yeah,
I just saw the House of Independence one.
Yeah, Brooklyn Bowl was actually huge when we did it last year. And that was one of my favorite shows of all time, my whole life, because they knew every word, every nuance. They were latching onto every single thing, and that was awesome. That's why we do it.
How was that venue to play at?
We have a great relationship with Brooklyn Bowl. Last year we did 5 shows or something, and they are, I have a thing there now that we have in Asbury Park. They're willing to throw some money at, hey, what ideas do you have?
That's cool.
And they've all really worked there of all different genres. And have some stuff this year. It'll be new, and we're going to try there too. But bringing 808s back, is a big deal for them.
So you have traveled, and you've been all over the United States. What would you say? Would you say that's your favorite venue to play?
I love Brooklyn Bowl. Yeah, there's something about it. The good stage size is a big thing. Passionate technical people, the people who are doing sound there and lights and stuff, like they want to put on a good show. It's not just another day at the job, which you face a lot. And that really tarnishes the experience. Having played like over 100 shows last year, working with literally over 100 different crews, you know who you like and who you don't. They just really take care of their artists, and they market well. It's an interesting venue where people just come anyway, because it's Brooklyn Bowl, like they're going to bowl or they're going to eat, and so they're coming to see a show no matter what. That's part of their experience, which is a plus. You get to meet people who wouldn't typically come to the show. But I really like it there in terms of that. They give us a lot of room to play. Probably one of my favorites in the country, I guess, at this point.
Are you, now that you're playing around the country, you've kind of been doing this, long enough to kind of have, a lot of experiences under your belt. And we were talking about this earlier, kind of the responsibility, you're kind of, in control or like fostering a relationship with all the band members you're working with. And now all these shows are coming up, you have to book them. Is it getting to a point now where it's, you're working, it's not you all the time being like the person that everyone's talking to. You've had to expand it as a brand, as a company, kind of to encompass, not just you taking care of everything is basically what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, I have some great teammates, a couple great band members who just kind of get it, for at the beginning, it kind of just had to be me because I kind of knew it all in my head, but I had to keep on going. So that, that was like a hustle at first. I pretty much started Remember Jones and did everything on my cell phone,
yeah.
which is just crazy. Through an iPhone really started the whole thing. But, a lot of great band members. I've got a great manager right now. We've got a national agent who's in Nashville, who's bringing us, to a lot of great places this year. I'm really, really excited about. So there's a lot of people, working on this stuff all the time.
And, oh, sorry.
I was just gonna say, with so many people making this come together, and you have such a big operation that you're running, you're going so many places. What would you say would be the challenges of doing what you do? What are the things that give you nightmares about doing what you do?
I care a lot about the people I work with too, so sometimes that weighs heavy on me, like, financially and things like that. It's a business, so you have to keep hustling to make the money. Logistics of all that, worrying about people's schedules, worrying about people's minds, like, where their heads at, are people communicating enough? That's been a big thing for me. Communication's like huge, and you're in a relationship with all these people. Now 12 people or whatever at a time, it's just a lot. So I do worry about that stuff, and I worry about where people are at and the longevity of that. I worry about my health, it's hard to keep it up. It's hard to be on all the time. That's a real thing. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And I've had to learn what's too much for me or what's not enough by just doing it. There's how do you even know that until you're actually in the moment? I'm a singer. The voice goes away. Talking all day long and then hitting the stage is painful sometimes. I'm not humming songs. We're going out Olympic style. Full out. So that's a thing. That's a real thing for me. So that I kind of, there's a lot. My physicality, like I've lost a lot of weight. I try to upkeep a healthy lifestyle. That shit is hard. And as a front man, you have to feel good. You have to, you can look however you want, but you got to feel right. And for me, that kind of goes hand in hand. So that stuff I worry about a lot, how also to keep it going, keep the momentum going, not to be stale. That's a real thing too.
You touched on the weight loss, and it's been covered. I think the Asbury Park Press interviewed you about it, I believe, and then you've been on a podcast already talking about that. So we'll link to some of that stuff on the website, which is it's amazing, but it's been covered. So you can go out there. I'll link to it, and people can read it. But what I find the most interesting part about that is. And it relates to, I think, your drive for the music, but it's this mentality of changing your life to be like, this is who I want to be. Yeah. And it's something that I think it's hard for everyone to do, and not everybody does it. What was your kind of, what do you feel is your mental process, or what do you feel that you could impart as far as like if you want to do something, what kind of mental focus or what kind of mental state do you need to be in to get to that point?
Well, I'm still figuring that out. I think I don't know, man. It's just primal at some point, you know. Like if you know you got a dream and you just want it, you're gonna do anything you can to get it done.
But I mean, you must have faced, you make it sound so like, oh yeah, we just did this and I thought of a name and now I'm touring nationally. But there's got to be a struggle. There's got to be points where you were like, I don't know, like.
Oh
this is
yeah,
tough.
my God, maybe once or twice a week. I'm like, that job at CVS is looking real good, you know. I definitely think about that a lot, you know, because if I wasn't born with this natural talent, I don't know if this would be the business I'm in. I don't know what the other one would be.
Yeah.
But you know, this is kind of what's happening, and it's always kind of the first thing for me. It's always been. I recently like bumped into a friend from high school who was like, I wish we were closer in high school. And we were friends, but, I wish we were closer. I wish we developed our relationship. And I said, I thought we were cool. And he said, you didn't have time for friends. But like, man, I wish you would have said that when we were 17, because I might have clocked that in my own life. But the truth is, I was always hustling. I mean, I was 16 doing cabaret shows in New York City. I was the youngest cabaret singer in New York. Like,
had no idea.
Crazy stuff, and there was like articles back then, and I just wanted to do it. I missed my junior prom to do a musical. I was just hustling and just doing that.
So you were just on. You were just from the jump.
Yeah, I always knew I wanted more than what was just right in front of me.
Do you feel like you missed out on something because of how much you gave of yourself as a young person to get into the business? Do you ever look back and feel like you missed out on experiences and proms and connections with people from growing up?
I don't know. I'm sort of
aren't that cool.
Yeah. Well, I'm sort of like at that point in my life, where like because I'm working with so many people and because there are relationships and because I have to navigate certain things or I've lost myself in certain things, so I need to gain that back, that I'm chatting with people or people that I love about these kinds of things, or how to separate the friendship and the business and stuff, because you want to be friends with the people you work with, obviously, but you gotta work still. So I don't know. I've thought about that. I guess I've always been on work mode. I think I have to clock in for health when it comes to that, and think about myself and how that feels and know when to turn off, which I didn't learn. I was just, I guess, always on. But I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I mean,
see, you're gonna leave this podcast thing. He's gonna be driving home and be like,
did I miss out on? Well, no, probably not. I feel like I gave myself over to a lot of things in life, and I feel like I've put other people before me many times, and I feel like Remember Jones is probably the first time I'm actually doing something positively selfish. Second time I lost all that weight. That was probably the first time. I was 375 pounds. And
I mean that kind of relates too. Like your health is part of what you want to do, and you got to take care of your health.
Yeah.
So it's kind of looking at it, in a broader spectrum. There's a lot of people, they start a band, they start partying, they're doing drugs and just drinking constantly, and they're having fun in the moment, but they're not thinking about, well, what is this going to lead to down the road? And you kind of had some foresight as far as like, I got to be healthy to continue,
Yeah, she was tough. I always thought like I was okay with being big guy, like funny, fat musician guy. I always thought it was part of my like look and part of my thing, and because it was. Not that it wasn't working for me, I was getting things and I was doing gigs and stuff like that, but I just wasn't feeling right. I always felt like I could do more being, just thinner and healthier, and that's the truth.
And it worked out so far.
Yeah, totally. So that's been 10 years this year since I've kind of changed my whole life and maintained that.
So where do you find your inspiration? What are the artists that you had growing up, whether locally or obviously well-known artists that you still go back to and just get your inspiration from?
I was a huge Prince fan.
Wow.
Which is interesting because like I don't necessarily feel like I sound anything like Prince but his just whole thing. I mean, if there's one artist you can be trapped on an island with just their music, like it's Prince for me because that covers everything.
Yeah, there's so much.
I get all the sounds I want. I get all the weirdness I want. I get all the comedy. He just really was such a brave person, and I think that as an artist kind of has driven me in a lot of ways too. Like that's the man.
Yeah.
I always loved that, but I always loved like frontmen and front women also. Tina Turner, Joe Cocker, Freddie Mercury. Like the Queen thing was always like a big deal for me. There's like a ton. Motown was like a huge thing in my family growing up, like the Motown sound, and
Would you like perform like for your family when you were like a little kid? Would you like get out there and like do some moves and sing?
A little
and stuff?
bit, yeah, a little bit when I was like 4 or 5, like a lot of oldies stuff. I was like really, really into. And then I guess that kind of stopped. And I remember my parents seeing me in like a musical review thing in middle school, singing "Superstar" from Jesus Christ Superstar.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget them being like, jaw dropped, like, what is this? Because I'm like wailing the notes, like I, like just was doing this every day. And then from then on, they understood that enough, but not enough,
That they weren't like, what about your accounting degree? You gonna? They're
Oh,
like,
no, there was definitely, well, they're hiring at the deli, there's definitely a lot of that kind of thing. But yeah, I don't know. I've just really been inspired by driven, creative people. I mean, Lady Gaga's so inspiring. That shit is just insane. She's amazing. And, she has her own life struggles and all these other things, but is maintaining this, career where she's changed herself and reinvented herself over and over again. Like, that's what's up right now. It's what you have to do. People's spans are so,
right.
they're taking it in for 30 seconds, not a whole album anymore, so you really have to keep changing yourself and rebranding and bringing something to new people all the time.
Is there stuff upcoming that, aside from the touring and playing, is there projects that you have ideas for in the works that you kind of?
Yeah. Well, this year we'll be touring a lot. The summer we'll be out for a couple months, and
I knew it.
We're out all of March, which is cool. New music, new original stuff. Working
cool.
on a lot of that, which unfortunately gets because I think people have said this to me always. I like what you do when you got originals, but there's something that when you take somebody else's thing and do your thing to it, that's unique and that's special. And if you think about that, that's Aretha Franklin, Tina Turner, all the big sort of popular soul rock artists have worked based on somebody else's material or with other singer-songwriters and stuff. Respect was an Otis Redding tune and things like that. Proud Mary, Tina Turner was the Creedence Clearwater, which is a completely different version. So we've done that with a lot of songs. Done that with Smashing Pumpkins and Sex and Candy, the Marcy Playground song. We do like a disco version of. And
oh, really?
We started working on like a Fleet. Yeah. Oh, you gotta check that out.
Exciting.
That's on the first album. That's on the debut album, ladies and gentlemen. Remember Jones, available on iTunes and Spotify. Yeah, it's really, really cool stuff. Cool. And that's just, I've always heard things in my own sort of way. So going with that, which is cool, which is how that kind of led to the Amy Winehouse, kind of led to the 808s and all that stuff. Working on a couple things this year.
Not gonna.
Well, there's one or two that's like in the process right now that could all just like not happen.
Yeah.
So I don't really even want to talk about it. But this year we're definitely gonna do Tommy. It's a 50th anniversary concert of the original album.
Are you gonna do that around here? Or are you gonna do that?
Yeah. We're gonna do it here and in Brooklyn probably, and that these things will often lead to other cities asking for it and stuff like that. But
I can't ever think of when I've seen you play, it's like it's always been a big party. It's always been like a big celebration, and it just seemed like somewhat naturally it was like, oh, here's a party, it's pretty big, and then you're like, oh, I'm playing here, it's a bigger party, and then you're playing here and it's like an even bigger party. So that's kind of, once I noticed that, I was like, I want to talk to him about what the hell is going on, and I got to talk to him before he gets the hell out of Dodge.
I like a small party too. Sometimes a hang is good. So Mark, who plays organ and piano with me, we often do like a duo sort of thing where we'll take our songs and just bring it down to the two of us, and I'll get a chance to sing some songs or ballads that I wouldn't be able to do with the larger band. So that happens every once in a while, which is nice. It's with all that's a thing as a singer, with all of these instruments going on, there's so much movement. So when you pare it down just to two people, I actually have to sing differently because I have more room to breathe or more space to fill and more nuance. You know what I mean?
Are you one of those type of people that'll be like 5-year plan, 10-year plan, 15-year plan?
You mean like organized?
I
know that's myth. They're like unicorns. I don't know. What
I got some laundry in my car that's on a 5-year plan. 5 years to the dry cleaner. It'll get there.
Right.
Sure, but not really. You know what I mean? Like I'm just down for the ride. I think at this point, and what I'm trying to do, I think, is a year plan. I sort of, at least for last year, I knew what I'd be doing for the whole year before the end of the year previously. This year was sort of up in the air because we acquired an agent, and these projects are being we're being commissioned. I guess is the right word. To do this here, and with a great dollar behind it. So you're like, oh, well, maybe that's going to change what's going on here. So kind of being just down for the ride, I guess, at this point.
How did you go about finding like an agent? Were people like, you know, contacting you? Were you like, I want to find the right person, so how do I do it? Was it like a courtship?
Yeah, a little bit of both, you know. It's a little bit of who you know also. You know, I sort of knew the agencies I would like to work with because there's some really big ones, you know, where, you know, Remember Jones would be kind of the speck on the bottom, but they've got like, I'm just going to throw in a Dave Matthews Band on the top, you know, and they're more worried about the Dave Matthews Band cash. So they're like, oh, yeah, Remember Jones, you know.
We remember him.
Yeah. So I knew I wanted to be on a smaller agency, you know, with a little bit more of a focus. So we're with New Frontier Agency out of Nashville. They've got like the Avett Brothers and Main Squeeze, Nicole Atkins, Sister Sparrow, and the Dirty Birds. Like some really good, like, you know, rock, soul, and like Americana stuff, which I really, really like. And that's how I think we would define us in a lot of ways.
Have you recorded stuff down in Nashville at all?
We made our last EP in Nashville,
Oh, right on.
Tranquilizer, which is just 5 songs. It was produced by Andrea Tokic, who did the first Alabama Shakes album. So he's got a Grammy for that. Nice. And I liked his style, and I knew I kind of wanted that sound. And everything there, which is interesting now for a lot of recordings, everything there was directly to tape. So there was no screens, nothing digital at all, which is really hard to do. You know, there's no auto-tune going on my voice or anything like that. Like I'm hitting the notes or we're going and doing it again, you know. And it's a literal tape, you know, like gotta cut the tape, gotta hold on, you know. It's how all the big Stevie Wonder, all the big records, like all are done that way. So if you think about it, it's amazing. Like Songs in the Key of Life, like my favorite album of all time, it was all done onto tape. Takes, you got to keep doing takes, you know. That wasn't hitting, you missed the rhythm or the bass was off that one note 2 minutes into the song. You got to redo the whole thing, you know. You could splice, you could do that, but sometimes the splice don't sound right, and you hear that on a lot of old records, you know, like you see where they cut into something old. But that's the style I wanted to do. That's cool. And it was a really cool experience, you know. And he talks about his Alabama Shakes experience. It's like, yeah, they were just a band that came in and it was what it was, you know, like it, you know, it's not like they went in going, we're going to take over the world. You know, they just, it felt right and it all kind of landed right. So, and now that guy will work forever. You know?
You've definitely, since, you know, we were talking about MySpace before, like you've definitely seen a spectrum of how things have changed with the advent of the interwebs and everything that's happened. And, you know, now when you go out to a show, or when you're getting ready to make an album or whatever, it's not really you don't make the kids don't listen to CDs anymore, is what I understand. So like, was that a weird transition? Do you still offer like stuff like that, like as far as merch, or is it all like T-shirts and QR codes when you like?
It's something we talk about every time we're gonna record, you know.
Because I like having that physical, like an album. You pull out a record or a CD, you could look at like the liner notes and stuff.
Well, vinyl's different. I mean, vinyl really sells.
Yeah.
You know, and we sell a considerable amount of those. And when we made the vinyl for the first album, Mark, who produced it with me, we're both like freaks for that stuff. So we wanted the liners, we wanted everybody credited, we wanted the lyrics, we wanted the picture fold out, you know, and we did it, and people wanted that, and they liked that. We even did like the first run was like a splatter clear vinyl, you know, which matched the colors of the album, and that shit's the best. And people are always posting photos of it or you know, talking about that. And I'm surprised when we go to places and people are willing to throw $25 down on a vinyl. But
especially at like a club or like a show, and they're all drunk and they're getting like their, you know, Johnny Walkers at the bar, and they got their record. I just hope they keep them
It's
safe.
the best.
Give them a bag or something to put in.
And with that now, you know, the digital download is part of that, so you could have that included. But, you know, we talk about this a lot. CDs do sell. I mean, people want to buy just something. So if they can support the band by making sure they have this music and they can upload it or however they do. I mean, do computers even, are they even called computers anymore? do they even have a place to put in a CD?
Yeah.
You know, like I don't even really know. Right. So I think for me, like, I love the album experience, so it's hard for me to lose that. And I designed, you know, the first Ladies and Gentlemen Remember Jones album as an experience, you know, it's a live record, but not in the order we did it, you know, things like that. We made the album for people to listen all the way through. Right. There's interludes, you know, string things and all this stuff.
That's cool. It's like old school.
Yeah, I love that stuff. So I don't know. I mean, we're talking about singles. You know, Spotify is like a huge thing.
Yeah, what's the deal with how do they convert like listens to units? Like I was reading about like Lil Wayne's album, like it outsold like X amount of albums, but then they're like, well, it didn't sell albums, it sold like, you know, listens or whatever.
Yeah, streams.
Yeah.
Right.
So you have to pay attention to that stuff now?
Well, yeah, I get a.
How are your streams? How are your streams doing?
Steady flow, my man. Yes, you could sort of keep track of it, obviously, but that's another sort of marketing push. You know, while we're focusing on getting people to a live show, you also have to focus on getting people to listen. You know, which is a pain in the ass. But we notice after shows, a lot of people are joining us on Spotify, following there because it's an easy thing to do. Just like they're liking on Instagram or Facebook. It's part of my spiel. You know, like us on Facebook, Instagram, Spotify. Facebook is less a thing, you know, in the last couple months even. More Instagram focused, more Spotify focused, because now people are sharing playlists, like they're sharing pics and, you know, things like that. So it's good to link up with other artists on Spotify. Like that's a real thing. It's its own community. It's really tricky. That stuff is not easy. And every once in a while, you get a direct deposit or a check for, you know, the point whatever 0.042 cents that you made. You know, it's really not much. And a lot of artists won't want to put their stuff on Spotify because you don't make that much money. I knew it. Once you drop the album and it's on Spotify, less people are buying it physically or downloading it, whatever. So I try not to push the Spotify thing too much, but it's really the only way to start getting connected with other people.
Right. So you said you're going to have some downtime, right? You're going to, well, when you're not on the road and you're not going to be performing, so maybe a couple of weeks where you can relax a little bit, hopefully.
Yeah, well, now I'm at the point where I have to sort of schedule that. Like, it's actually important for me because I do have the mindset, which a lot of entrepreneurs do. I'm sure you guys understand. Like, you got a day off. What am I doing with myself? I'm a waste of life. I'm this and this and this. You know, I really have a hard time just turning off, which I need to do.
Well, when you are and do turn off, where are you going? Are there bands that you're going to go see in town? Is there places that you like to eat and restaurants and bars that you like to go to? Where do you find yourself sneaking off to enjoy some downtime?
I'm like a low carb guy and low sugar guy, so eating out sometimes is tough for me. But you know, I like wings though.
Oh yeah,
damn. I feel like
Super Duper Bowl. They're having wings this weekend. Taylor Allen just wanted to give a little plug over at House of Independence.
Yes, I think MJ's has the best local wings. I don't know if you've been to MJ's.
I'm on my wife doesn't like me calling it, but I'm on a detox right now, and that's what I'm going to call it because I don't know what else to help. You know.
Well, I'm not. Where's MJ's?
Well, there's a couple locations. There's like Neptune, Tinton Falls.
Okay.
They got pizza wings, all this other stuff. So to me, that's the best. That's the best local wing. I love barbecue. So Jersey Shore barbecue is a thing for me.
Man, making me hungry.
Oh, I know. I'm starting. I just got a little lightheaded.
It's funny though, like you talked about like sugar and stuff. Like I cut that out, and I cut out carbs, and it's like I'm like just more focused. I'm more awake. It like does definitely affect your. It's not only about like feeling good, looking good, but it's also like you got to get into the science of it, of how your brain is functioning on what you're eating. I can't wait to be able to have some of these delicious wings you're talking about, but I do appreciate the idea of like being able to focus, and how that all fits in.
I mean, depending on how they make the wings, it ain't necessarily healthy, but you
could have a cheat day every now and then.
Yeah, totally. And that's the thing I've had to learn too, like committing full time to changing my life. For a couple of years after I lost weight, I had a hard time of like, real clean for 6 days, and then day 7 I'm binging. I'm just eating everything. I'm like not going to bed so I can keep eating another bowl of cereal, and then it's the best, right? but I know like my triggers, like that's a trigger for me. It's hard to just have one bowl. Like I'm eating the whole box. I'm going down with it, and I'll treat myself a couple times like that, but I've learned how to maintain that a little, and it comes with probably a couple extra pounds that I'd like off, but I'm not stressing about food anymore. Like I can turn that off, and it's not what I'm thinking about all day long.
That's a great, I think like I was saying before, kind of that mentality, that focus, it lends itself to each thing you're talking about. It's something where you have to really take a step back and be like, do I want this instant gratification, or do I want to be playing nationally, all year long?
Yeah,
like, what do I want to do? And is it going to happen today, or is it going to happen tomorrow? Like, where's the trade-off? And I think a lot of people, kind of get caught up in that, where they just don't even want to, look into the future that much, you know?
It's happened with a lot of people, you know, I've worked with or something, you know, and we get real spoiled here locally. I mean, we are so spoiled here locally, which is amazing. We're spoiled with the amount of opportunities we can have. You know, you could play at a different spot every single night, you know, and make a living really just kind of staying here.
There's a lot of bands I know that, you know, do that.
Same. That's not my goal. You know, I wanted to be able to take this to other places and be the national act, you know, and maybe that means a couple less bucks because you're risking, you know, where we started here, we're risking that somewhere else. But that's what I want, you know. Yeah. That's the drive and the ambition that I have. But I also feel like a lot of people don't think it's possible. You know, they are okay with staying in a place, maybe getting a day job, kind of working the bands at night, and they never thought I was going to be able to do music for, you know, my life anyway. But that's not what I've always thought. I know it's possible.
And I mean that goes with it too. Is like if you play, you might not get, you know, the first time you play. Where you were just down in, where were you? North Carolina, South Carolina, somewhere down there.
Yeah.
Was that vacation or for?
Well, my mom lives down by Charleston, so I was hanging there. But the first time we played in Charleston, we had 400 people there.
But and then the next time, you know, it just kind of adds like every single time. So I think people have to look at that. Is there anything? As far as like all, you know, all the youngsters out there that are listening and aspiring to be, you know, the next Remember Jones, is there
Good
any?
luck, bitch.
Got my eye on you.
Is there advice that you could say, you know, you could give them? If somebody wants to take it to that next level, they don't want to be local. They want to totally local. They want to be, you know, beyond that. They want to be totally national. Like, is there advice or how, you know, what would you say to somebody that wants to do that?
I think, you know, just don't forget, you know, what you want, what your dream is, you know, like don't forget that. Don't get caught up in one sort of particular moment. You know, we're very lucky here on a local level. I mean, the past couple of years, just in Asbury Park or Red Bank or Jersey alone, tri-state area alone, open for George Clinton, open for Ronnie Spector, open for Darlene Love, Buster Poindexter we did 2 nights with, you know, Southside Johnny and the Asbury Jukes. I mean, these are huge names for me as part of my life. And I could just sit here and wait for the next wave, or I could try to do this all over the place, you know. And I think for people who really want to expand beyond their thing, it's that, you know, don't get too spoiled, don't get that ego, you know, watch that ego, really put it to the side because it's not cute. It's really, really not cute. And, you know, I have an ego when it comes to my vision, you know, and what I want or who I want to work with, you know. I expect kind of the same thing. So, but when it comes to people and audiences and you know, that's part of the job. Part of the job is connecting with all of your people and listening and, you know, being... you know, it's hard. It's very, very, very hard. So I think for me the advice is to, you know, keep your eyes on the prize. You know, is your prize just to play music? Great. You know, if that's fulfilling to you to do 7 nights a week, it don't matter where, it don't matter how, as long as you're playing music, awesome. Go for that. Commit to it. Don't say you're going to do it. Commit. You know, have the drive and the ambition. But if your goal is to be larger than you are right now, you know, you have to continuously do that. You have to keep up the momentum and feel it and go with your gut and you know, keep your head screwed on. It's very, I mean, this business, I think I said this to you before we started. Might have even said it to you while we were on here. If I wasn't a singer, you know, I naturally, I don't know if I'd be in this business. You know, it's really, really, really tricky to navigate. The wind blows and it changes, you know. That happens to me on a local level, you know. You have to keep up with it, you know. You really, really have to keep up. You got to keep running.
Do you come across, you know, now that you've got notoriety and people, you know, coming to your shows, like, you know, more and more and more, do you find that there's like these people kind of coming out of the woodwork, maybe like not the best influences, negative influences, or glommers on that kind of want stuff from you? Like, is that happening more and more?
Yeah. I love the word glom. That's what I'm gonna do at the barbecue place. I'm gonna glom real hard.
I'm coming with you.
Me and Leo glomming tonight. Yeah, definitely. You know, and that's part of my gut thing too. You know, like that initial sort of thing, you know, like meeting somebody, you feel that energy or whatever, like, you know, it's going to be fulfilling or not, or, you know, oh, they're just trying to latch on to what I got going on, or they just want 100 more people to show up to the show. They don't give a fuck about me, you know, like I know that feeling really well. I feel like it's happened to me all my life, you know? So I'm pretty sensitive to that stuff and quick to be like, nah, ain't gonna work for me. Or now, hey, yeah, chat with my agent, you know, and because
that's great.
That's the power of that, you know. That's what that guy's getting paid for, you know. But yeah, there's a lot of that. I mean, there's, like I even said, there's people reaching back to me from years ago who like, you didn't give a fuck, man. I'm not even anybody really right now, and maybe that's my advice to people also. Like, you ain't nothing. You know what I mean? Like, really, there are a lot of talented people out there. There are a lot of people hustling just the same as you are. Cool it down a second. Bring yourself to a realistic place. I always go into shows expecting not to sell out. I always go into everything going, this might not work. So you have to keep fighting to like make sure it is the best. You have to keep topping yourself always, always. No matter where you are, how many people are there, 5 people are there. You got to give the same show as if 5,000 were. You have to do that. That's my theater thing, you know. And I also always feel like I'm replaceable in this, you know. There's somebody watching what I'm doing, like we were just saying, all the time. Somebody's going, okay, I see what Remember Jones does, and I could do that better. So I'm going to slam this, and I'm going to do that. And I know that, and I'm aware of that. So it's either I work with that person, you know, say, why don't you come into my, or I just keep doing it better, you know. So like that's really intense. I don't remember what the question was now that I've gone on a little bit.
No, I love it.
That was great.
I think if, you know, at some point, I think you have a motivational speaking future. I think you could get up in front of people and talk to them about fixing all kinds of.
I've done it a couple times. I like doing it with the weight loss stuff, you know, because that's a different podcast, you know. But I have a lot to say about that, and I've experienced a lot. So I do often say this to people that might doubt me, or people who, you know, feel like they just know better or whatever. You know, I have lived a long life already in this time. You know, I've experienced a lot of different things. I've experienced myself as several different people. I am several different things that I've had to overcome and experience, you know, things I don't want to share publicly too. You know what I mean? Like things that are just my own things that I've had to overcome. So, you know, check yourself for a second when it comes to, I haven't thought about this. You really think I'm just going off on nothing? You know, like, you know, I'm in my 30s, you know, and there's people who are in their 20s who want to act like they got it all. But you did too, and so did you, you know, and I know that too. You know, I knew when I was 20, there's people who were like, fuck this kid because he thinks he knows everything, you know? So there's a lot of wisdom that comes with, you know, life and experiences and being on the road, you know? Like the past year alone, I learned more about myself than I would have known a couple years ago, you know? Lived in many cities, you know, I've was in Chicago for a couple of years with a band, you know, trying to make that work out and change my life where I didn't know anybody there after I lost 200 pounds, you know, so I'm a baby in a new world, you know, like that experience is so humbling. You have to do that in your life. You know, if you don't do that, which a lot of people here don't, you know, and a lot of people that I know or work with have yet to do that, just be pushed out on their own. You know, I learned so much. I really brought myself down to a humbling place with that. So yes, I could talk a lot. I like that. You know, I like that. I like having a 25-piece band or whatever. I like having the one-on-one, being able to, you know, enrich someone or share some knowledge and have the conversation. You know, like I really love that.
Do you have people reach out to you saying that you inspired them, and like, you know, how does that, you know, what's that experience like for you?
I definitely have a lot of fans that gain knowledge because of the weight loss. You know, so there's people, I've done blogs and different podcasts and things like that, and we'll continue to do that. But especially with the Asbury Park Press, we did a big video, and there's a whole like hour-long or half-hour interview with Alex Spice, and who also lost a bunch of weight, and I've known since we were kids, you know, so we wanted to talk about that like friends, you know, just talk about this. So many people are reaching out and then coming to the shows and saying, wow, you're so inspiring. Or there are people who like can even tell on my body that, you know, I've lost weight. So they'll come up to a show and say, I know this, you know, talk to me about this. And they're just inspired by that too, you know? So, you know, there's a lot of bravery with that. There's a lot of, you know, there's a lot of struggle. There's a lot of physicality sometimes I don't feel comfortable with, you know, like, and that's for a lot of people really inspiring. So to share that story with people is like super, super cool. So there's that crew, which at one point I was like, I don't want to take advantage of this, but no, let's take advantage of this because it does help people, and that's
I don't think you're taking it. You're being yourself, and people want to know about it. You know, So I mean, I don't think that's taking advantage of it. It's, you know, it is what it is. There's a certain point where it's like, you know, you said like don't have a big ego, but then you got to understand, well, I'm talented, so like I'm talented. That's a fact. I don't want to have a big ego about stuff, but you got to kind of weigh out. It seems like it's always a balance.
No, there's a good selfish, you know, and I've learned that too, you know. after feeling like I was just damaging myself by giving it all up to other people, you know. And I've told that to people I work with, you know, bandmates. You know, anybody I work with is so talented. You know, if you got a dream and you got a goal, I'm never mad if you say to me, listen, I don't know if I could do this anymore because I got to focus on my own thing. Like, like that's why I wanted you here to begin with, because you had that ambition and drive. So definitely not mad at that. And you can't be unhappy in a scenario. You can't be somewhere going, I don't really fit in, but I'm making a couple bucks tonight, so I'm going to do that. That's the worst feeling, you know, especially when you're an artist, especially in the music biz, you know. You got to do what drives you, you know, and how you feel.
So I know you have bandmates coming in and coming out, and some new ones have recently joined your team. Well, do you find inspiration in that? Do they bring things to you when they first come on board, songs, material, anything like that?
You know, this was like, especially right now, this is happening in a big way, and it's a huge learning experience for me because it's a business now. And I'm not saying I'm the best business person. I'm evolving and learning that as that's going on too, because as I've learned, everyone is different. Just like this, you guys have an operation is different than somebody else's operation. You open up a storefront or a boutique, it's different than that other person's, and it ain't your business what they do. It's their own thing. Same thing with the band. You know, I can't say U2's success is going to be the road that I'm taking because who knows what they faced and what they did. You know, but you know, I have mentors and people I've talked to and people that are helpful to me who've done some great stuff, and so I get some good advice, but I'm still open-minded and I'm still growing. So bringing different people into the game really allows that to change, which is awesome. It also allows me to say, this is how we do this, you know, without preconceived notions or, well, in 2015, you told me this, you know, well, nope, this is what it is now, and this is what we're going to ride with, and maybe in 6 months that's going to change. But, you know, let's try this out as your director or whatever, as the CEO of this. Like, this is what we're going to do right now. And we might fall on our face, you know, but when we do that together, we're going to say, okay, that didn't work, and we're going to try this. And that's, you know, it's powerful when like 12 people together can all say, yeah, that's it. That's when you know that's the right thing. But at some point, 12 people can't make up their mind, and you need the one person to say, this is what we're doing. Next, we ain't got time for this, you know. We really play music less than anything else, you know, like it's all the managing, it's all the logistics, all the rehearsing, it's all the nuance before you even actually play the show. So bringing in new people, they'll bring in their own experiences, and they're also the ones, you know, especially the people that we're bringing in now who have been watching. So they have a different perception of what's going on. You know, they might see it, you know, more grandiose than it actually is, you know. So they could get into the process and be disappointed because it's grueling, or they could go into the process going, I'm going to be a part of this growth, and I'm going to help take this to the next level. And that's who I want to work with.
It's a lot of what you have. People see something from the outside and they see it as being glamorous and they see it as being fashionable. But there's so much work that you have to do to get halfway to look the way that you want.
Yeah, halfway. Yeah, totally. Well, you've always been cool like that on a hang. You know, you're like, tell me about, which I love. I love people who like are watching and perceiving. You know, not judging the whole thing. They're just kind of, And then you got a question, which, you know, gives me that, like, you know, that boner, you know, because I'm like, ooh, this is the stuff I want to talk about, you know? That shit's cool, you know, because we could start to talk about the ins and outs. And then maybe that conversation is going to inspire me to try something different, you know, because you're perceiving it in that different way. And that I like that. Different artists or different creative people who are in tune with kind of how that stuff goes, you know. Or you're a fan of bands, you know, or you see live music all the time. So you're like, ooh, I like what you do as opposed to this. And why do you do that? Why is that a thing? Like, that stuff to me is great. That allows me to talk about my creative stuff. You know, I try not to compare to other people and other things. I unfortunately don't get to see a lot of other stuff. I'm a bad audience member, like a really bad audience member.
What do you mean?
Ah, man.
You just...
Yeah, I'm a visionary, you know, like that's not an ego. That's something I am, you know. I'm a creative entrepreneur in a lot of ways. So like to see something, I start to dissect, you know, and I start to go, ooh, I wish that bitch would have done this and that. And you know, if they would have like, you know, two-stepped over at that point, that would have made that so much better. And that takes me out of, you know, what's happening.
The moment.
Yeah. So, and you know, we have a lot of fans, especially in this area, who will pay a lot of money to see us in a seated venue, which is awesome. And we did a show at the Axelrod in Deal, and they charged $50 for tickets, and I didn't know that was happening. And I said, "Oh my God! Like now I got to give a $50 show." You know,
I can't give a $10 show anymore. I got to give a $50 show
not
today.
Not even $17.50 with fees. You know, like it's $50. So I got nervous. You know, but it actually helped me level it up and do what I knew we were capable of doing, because those $50 seats sold out like that. You know,
cool.
We were sold out so fast. And because it's a large band, because it's a classic sound, you know, people want to take that in. In cities across the country, you know, a lot of younger crowds as we travel and tour, but I want people to dance, you know, because I'm drenched in sweat like 2 minutes in. But they're watching because there's so much going on.
Oh,
It's like very circus-like, and that's what I love. And after the show, they're, "Oh my God, that was one of the best shows I've ever seen." I'm like, "But you didn't move. You didn't even shake your ass
Like a deer in the headlights. They're just like looking.
One of my songs is "Shake Your Ass Down to the Grass," and you didn't even do it. You didn't try, you know. But you bought the T-shirt that says "Shake Your Ass Down to the Grass." You know, so they like that. They're sucked in to be part of the experience, and that's what I like too. And that's, as an audience member, what I want. Even if you are a folk singer playing a guitar, you know, there's a certain energy and control that you have at that point to be a great storyteller and to have the right nuance and that to me is awesome. You don't even have to be the best singer. You don't have to be the best anything. If you can make somebody feel a certain thing, I'm in, you know, and that takes some work, or it's a natural thing that you have. So as an audience member, sometimes I could say, you don't have either one of them for me, you know. So I gave you the chance, you know, that first impression, and I just don't have it anymore. But there's a lot of talented people around. Yeah.
So we talked a lot about the things that you've done and built and how great your shows have been. In the lane of being inspiring, are you willing to talk about something that you put on that did not go well to you, that you did not enjoy or like?
Theo with the hard hitting.
Ooh, I got one for you. Because this is actually interesting and it's topical at this point. Ooh, that phone is just dying. Sorry. I get nervous when I get anything lower than 50%. Yes, I mean, I don't think there's been any failures, which is awesome, because I don't think like that. You know what I mean? I always think like it's a learning experience, etc. Here's how we can make it better. You know, when we did 808s and Heartbreak, we announced it as a tour last year, like 5 or 6 venues, and I had to cancel a few of them because of the Kanye sort of stuff that happened last year. People were instantly turned off, and there were, you know, people don't know who I am in certain places yet, so they just didn't trust the concept. So we canceled a few shows and did 2 shows, which turned to be huge. But I can't show up somewhere and there's 12 tickets. So, like, well, I ain't doing that. You know, especially when there's 25 people in the band. You just can't risk it financially, creatively, artistically.
A lot of people, a lot of stuff.
But we did, probably one of my favorite things we did was Trapped in the Closet. We did the whole R. Kelly thing live. And we
like 1 to 13 or
chapters 1 through 12 live. we were the first people ever to do this. I did it with a 20-piece band. And with people in front of me lip syncing the whole thing, you know, and yes, you are. It is awesome. It is fucking awesome. You know, and that's got like a short person in it. Small person.
Small person.
Small person.
Little person, yeah.
You never know the internet. Small person.
Little person.
And that was like the hardest thing for me to acquire. And I said, we can't do this without that. And I got a dude who was brilliant and has become like sort of a friend. You know, like he totally got it. You know, which was like awesome. But you know, now like we can't do it. And that to me is like, we can, but with the R. Kelly stuff, like, you know, I can't really support a lot of that. It's a shame because I could jam to Ignition and I love that material. I mean, it's a big part of my life. Trapped in the Closet was huge for me. That's why we did it, you know. But it didn't sell as many tickets as I wanted to. There were people even then who were shooting it down because of the R. Kelly stuff who knew that. I mean, this was still 3 years ago. So like that to me was sort of it's kind of heartbreaking. We've all agreed lately, well, we got to scratch that one off the repertoire. Because I always envisioned doing it again. So I feel like that's the thing. But I don't know if we've had I've had failures in like song performances. You know, I've gotten to the stage and forgot words. Or
what's your go-to? You forget something. Do you just point? Do you say, hey?
Start singing a different song. We started. It turns into a mashup all of a sudden.
Scatting or
something? No, I mean, there's definitely times, and thankfully, I have that the recovery thing in there where I could, you know, I could make a joke out of it and turn into.
You got a whole bunch of people too behind you. It's not like you're just like say like a rapper on stage with like a dat and like it's just you and you mess up.
Well, this happened. You know, So one of the shows that we do is Joe Cocker's Mad Dogs and Englishmen, which is one of my favorite albums of all time. And it was this long tour he did with a 20-something piece band, and there's a great documentary about that experience for him, where he had talked about it being the hardest of his life or the worst. And but if you listen to it on an album, I mean, there's 8 singers in a choir, there's 2 drummers. Leon Russell was the music director. It's one of my favorite things ever. But we were doing the show, and there's a song "Bird on a Wire" that's a Leonard Cohen song, and some musicians don't listen to lyrics. They don't know a song based on the words, which to me is crazy, because it is what drives the emotional force of the song. It's why a song feels and sounds the way it does most times, is because of the lyric. Maybe that's the way I operate, and a lot of bands don't. But we lost place. The sound wasn't the best on stage. There's so many people on stage. There's an 8-person choir who's on a different side of the stage than the guitarist and drummer. One person heard something, moved with that instead of following me, which you got to follow the front man, y'all, which they will always do after that experience. And so I tried to pick it up by turning around and saying, let's go back from this spot. But nobody knew the word or the phrase there. So I actually had to stop the song and talk to the audience and say, actually, this is amazing at this point, because this doesn't often happen. Believe it or not, with 20 people on stage, we stay really tight, and that's like a feat in itself. So we're going to start this again, because I like the song. Didn't make it through. It's worth playing the whole thing through. And of course, we got a standing ovation at the end of it, because it's live music, And if you're a good entertainer, or front man, or personality, or whatever, people trust you with that. They'll trust the fuck up too, Right. It's like SNL when people laugh. Those are some of the most celebrated moments on SNL.
That's my favorite part.
The best, because some of that shit is so funny that it's so good when they keep it together.
Yeah.
But when they just lose it, it's good. So
they're human too,
Yeah, totally. And that most people celebrate that. If you're in the audience going, "Oop, they messed that up. I ain't ever seeing them again." You're a fucking asshole. Especially when you're like, "Wow, look at this operation that I only paid $20 to see or $30 to see." And we've had that too. I've had disgruntled audience members or people who are making comments that are like 5 feet away from me.
Wow.
What do you do? You just ignore it?
Well, it's hard to ignore that.
Yeah.
I used to say
nice.
this a lot. Like, if there's 100 people in the audience and 99 people like me, I'm more concerned about the one that didn't.
Yeah.
I'm not as concerned about that anymore. But because I understand that I'm not for everyone, or my sound isn't for everyone, or whatever. But when you're like a comedian, you ever see a comedian getting heckled?
Yeah.
You have to devote your energy to that, because that's where it's going, and it's hard to escape that. That's happened to me a couple times.
What do you?
If it's powerful enough for me, or a scenario, to step off stage and get somebody to remove that person or ask them to move,
good.
That's cool. That's happened to me before. If I can somehow make the connection to say something, but most people who are heckling don't care, so they want to start a fight. I mean,
why are you even at the show, man? Just go home.
Yes, well, that's usually how I feel. Or like, if you were 400 feet away, I would have never even known you didn't like this.
Yeah.
But because you're this far away from me, cracking jokes or looking at the girls, making people feel uncomfortable on stage, like, get out. Just get out.
Yeah.
What are you doing? This is my show, not yours. You're coming to see me. If you don't like it, you can leave.
That's good. You're looking out too for the well-being of, like, you guys are a crew. Right. Yeah, like, you got to make sure everyone's comfortable.
And being in the front of that, controlling the vibe.
Yeah.
At any moment I could ruin the whole thing. At any moment I could be like, "Fuck, yeah," and everybody goes home. You know what I mean? Like, so it's very hard. Sometimes the game time decisions for me are, I'm either very proud or have left going, I could have done that a little bit differently. And I think pretty much, I know the people that I work with trust that, or they wouldn't be working with me. And I've said that to musicians I work with who have messed up or didn't come as prepared. If I didn't come as prepared, you wouldn't be here.
Right.
Like, you would not be a part of this scenario, because you would be like, "Oh, I'm just gonna look for something else. This ain't working." Right. So I hold you to the same thing. I expect the same of you. And is that wrong of me? You're amazing. Right. Why ain't you amazing all day long? Like, we're not. Nobody's perfect. I understand mess ups. We all mess up. But like, if you ain't coming prepared,
right.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's it falls back on there's a deeper way to look at it, like self-esteem, like whatever that person's going through, maybe they're we talked about it before, they're just scared.
Yeah.
Because success is frightening as hell. Like, you put yourself out there, I'm going to go this far, and you get there, and then you're like, all right, well, I'm going to go this far now, and you get there, and at a certain point you're like at the end of a cliff, and you're like, where am I going to go? Am I going to soar, or am I just going to sink? And some people get like nervous.
I guess that's like a turn on for me, or maybe I'm just like it's ingrained in me. Even I grew up doing theater, first, so that experience is every time you're on stage. Like every time you're on stage, this could be a fucking nightmare, or nobody could be here, but you still got to give the same show. And I've always sort of felt that, or always felt like I'm replaceable. So you just have to keep on fighting for it. And some people don't have that fight. They don't want that fight, or they don't like being on stage as much, or something like that. But I know no matter what, it's going to be a show for me. It's a show band. Even if in 4 years we decide to do a tour or a record with 3 people, me and a mandolin, I don't know, like it's still going to be a show. That's important to me.
Is performing your favorite part of it? Like,
yeah.
Okay. So like getting in the studio, recording stuff is cool, but like getting in front of people, do you just get like that electric, like you get up there and it's just, you feel like home when you're up there?
Yeah, totally. That's why it's Remember Jones, and it's, sort of, it's a thing. The on-stage thing is a thing for me. Thankfully, like Mark and Roshane, like these are like my dudes in the band. Like they're killer studio guys. Like they love that stuff. They're also great on stage too. But they have driven sort of more of the let's get to the studio, let's record, let's put this down, because that's not my go-to. My go-to is the live show. So that's a working relationship that works really well in a lot of ways, because we would like never record if it was for me. I understand it's like a necessity, but it's not my thing. So the first album, Ladies and Gentlemen, Remember Jones, was live. And we recorded it live in front of an audience. Did each song twice that night, to try different things, to give different takes. But it was also the first time the audience was hearing these songs live. We had never performed them out. So that experience, that feeling you feel listening to the record, and of course they sound so different now because we've evolved with them over time. But I wanted to make my debut as a band, or as Remember Jones, be the live experience. Of course, we save things for the show that aren't on the record, but I wanted that energy because that's my strength. I felt like I sounded the best. And I do. I mean, I have a hard time singing to a wall. Like, I just...
like egg carton or whatever they use.
Yeah.
Like
yeah, it's worth. And I've read a lot, and I continue to read a lot about pop stars or producers and people who just really have a hard time, or what they do to get that performance out to make them the most comfortable. Is very individual.
Yeah, I was just watching a Peter Gabriel documentary about his album So, and he actually recorded the vocals. He had like a keyboard or whatever set up, and he had like a little boom box, and he'd have it turned down really low, and he would record the vocals like that with no headphones because he didn't like the headphones.
Yeah, sure.
So I mean, people have these preconceived notions of like what you have to do.
Yeah.
But ultimately, it's an art, and you have to figure out whatever makes it as comfortable as it can be.
Yeah, it's changes per song for me. If I'm singing like a ballad, it's very different than me jamming on an upbeat, rhythmic kind of thing. So I have to go with what I'm feeling I need at that moment. I can't force myself to just do it. And I sing very high and very powerful, so that's a very hard thing to just bust out all of a sudden. It takes warming up, and it takes physicality. Sometimes you can't do that. Oh, next take, do it again. I work with producers who are like chewing on gum on the other side going, yeah, do that again. I'm like, yeah, you know what, fuck you. I'm literally screaming back. I'm drenched in sweat while you're like, just hanging out. So it's... Working with a good producer is a really important thing. Somebody who you all of a sudden adding another team member, to that project. It's good to have somebody who understands you and understands what you're going for, because they won't rush you. They won't make you feel unnatural. It's a very sensitive thing to get the right take. Talking about Jagged Little Pill, the Alanis Morissette thing. I mean, oh my God, like the way that sounds, they were trying many different things to get it to be the way it was. And if you ever read about that album, the techniques to ways to record certain things and what they did and what they left on the recording that sounds authentic just because it worked at that moment, it's fascinating.
Do you have like a favorite microphone for like recording in the studio, or a favorite microphone for like, live?
I use a Telefunken M80 right now for the
Damn.
Telefunken M80.
Sponsor.
Yeah, which I've done some stuff with Telefunken, and it's a good live mic. I'm actually looking to get my own made, so I'm going to be trying like a few different mics out. I really, really, really want like the Bob Barker microphone.
Just like the 3 foot long.
Yes. I want to hold it down here like by my belly button and sing up. So, but to be able to do that, you need to actually construct something that can travel on the road and can handle the vocals and stuff like that. As for recording itself, I don't really have a preference. The producers have, and I did this recording project. We did a bunch of Dean Martin songs. I sang with Dina, his daughter, and you know, I used some like ribbon mic that was like from Radio City Music Hall from the 50s.
Like butter.
Yeah, and it was super cool. But that was the producer's idea, going, you're going to sound great on this, and it's going to be like authentic. And sometimes I don't hear the difference, you know, but you can. In reality, if you really dig deep, you could hear, oh, it's brighter, or it has this, you know, thing to it, or whatever. Right. That's a whole science that I'm learning also, you know, and I'm trying to be better at.
What's is the 808 and Heartbreak the next show that you got coming up?
Yeah. So that's Valentine's weekend. So February 15th at Brooklyn Bowl, February 16th at House of Independence, which we did last year, and it was really, really cool. So we're doing that again. 25 people. There's an 8-person classical choir on that. String quartet. Cool. Lots of keyboards, lots of, you know, 808 stuff. I sing through a vocal processor and have a ton of effects, which is a lot of fun for me. Something that I'm learning also, which is super cool. So there's, you know, I do the auto-tune effect on a lot of the songs, which is awesome.
And then after that, you hit the road in March?
Yeah, then we're on the road in March. Ithaca, Rochester, Wilmington, Delaware, Fairfield, Connecticut, D.C., Cleveland, Pittsburgh, which we've done most of those markets and do like pretty well in. And then got a little things. Some things might be popping up in the spring, which are sort of
what kind of things?
Well, you know,
give us an exclusive on our podcast.
Yeah, we want breaking news.
Oh God, I almost wish this was like a week later, because then I might be able to actually say that's coming through. But hoping to be a part of the Asbury Park Music and Film Festival.
Oh, right on.
In sort of a one-off kind of way. We're going to do something that's just for that.
Cool.
That's being sort of discussed right now. So the concept isn't solid yet, but that's in the works. Which might lead to a few other dates of that, but then definitely Remember Jones tour this summer. You know, doing a lot of stuff where, you know, we surprise audiences with that second set of, you know, doing the Amy Winehouse album or doing something like that, or, you know, we focus marketing in some places on just that, and then give them the original set as the opening. So we're doing that in a few cities this summer, but most just original kind of Remember Jones nights where we're just doing whatever the fuck we want.
That's cool.
But we'll be a lot of Colorado dates, a lot of California dates. Going to be in San Francisco, L.A. this summer, Santa Barbara. I mean, I'm so psyched about that stuff. Texas, a whole bunch of dates, and hopefully some recording in the process. And then Tommy is going to happen in September, which I'm not. That's kind of an exclusive. I haven't really announced that on my end.
We'll take it. Exclusive. Yeah. Totally local.
Exclusive.
So that's going to happen at the Axelrod and Deal. We do a project there every year. They're really cool people there, and they're trying to evolve with their company. They've turned into a professional theater company there, where I did Jekyll and Hyde like 2 years ago, the musical, and played Jekyll and Hyde, which I'm still recovering from. And then we did Hair this past summer in concert there, which started as a one-night concert and sold out 5 nights.
Nice.
So we're doing that with Tommy. We're doing 2 performances, and then potentially adding more. But that's not the musical. We're doing the original album with guests and stuff like that. It's going to be a lot of fun. And that'll be at Brooklyn Bowl, most likely also. We're trying to work on a little 50th anniversary tour of that, and got some ideas. You know, I really want to... we have such talented people who can do so many different things and really be chameleons. You know, we're looking to have a company. You know, really many shows that we can provide to just get people working, and so that nobody's, you know, upset about money or something. You know, there's always a different thing.
Yeah.
You know, cover bands do that in one night, where they'll do, you know, like 40 different artists in one night. So me, I'm trying to do shows where it's just one particular thing. I want to do Tom Jones live in Las Vegas. It's one of my favorite albums, you know, but that's like, we do really well in casinos, really well in performing arts centers, you know, really well for older crowds.
Yeah.
That aren't going to come to 808s and Heartbreak or Alanis Morissette or something like that. Bat Out of Hell is in my wheelhouse for at some point, because it's like one of my favorite albums. I got to do it. Songs about Jane, Maroon 5's first album. Like, I'd love to see a live show of that. So people are willing to take those chances with me, and bandmates have a lot of ideas too of albums they'd like to do and stuff. So, and that's what's happening. The Asbury Park Music and Film was that organization saying, we know you like to do this. We have some ideas.
Cool.
Let's mess around.
That's great. People come to you with ideas. You know, it's motivating to not just be like, you know, going to them. They're coming to you with, like, not only like, hey, we want to see what you've already done. It's like, hey, let's do something different.
Yeah, and so, you know, sometimes it doesn't work, or they, you know, like a lot of producers or a lot of promoters, they have like delusions of grandeur, and they're like, oh, well, this can happen, right? You could do that on Friday, you know? And I'm like, oh my God, you know? So, you know, like even this conversation about the Music and Film Festival, maybe it's not going to work out, you know? Maybe logistically or financially, it's like not in the cards, but So that's why I'm a little hesitant to talk about it until we like sign that contract. It's announced, you know, because it has definitely happened to me where like this is going to happen, and then, you know, it just doesn't happen.
Until it's in your hand, you can't really count on it, you know.
And sometimes even then, you know, we're humans.
Yeah.
But so, you know, that is a really cool position to be in, and it's like super cool to have. It's very powerful, you know, and it's easy to lose that when you're in like a powerful position too. So,
So did you bring any VIP tickets to the 808 and Heartbreak show
For Leo?
for me?
oh, just for you,
Just for me.
Leo, you're on the list, boo.
Thank you.
You're on the list. We'll take care of you.
This was worth it all.
I'll even give you a +1 because I probably know who it'll be.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, that's a fun one, and you know, if people haven't seen that, it's definitely like worth trusting the band if you don't know the Kanye stuff. 'Cause it's very musical, it's very over the top, it's artistic even in its approach, and it's super cool.
Yeah, I mean, you're definitely, you get, for what it's worth, you get my seal of approval whenever I see something like that's, you know, you're doing something like, oh, it's going to be a great show, you know it, and you're definitely part of making, you know, a lot of people, I call it the Wall of Bruce, like Asbury Park, everyone talks about Bruce Springsteen, but this area should be, in my opinion, should be known for more than that, because there are so many great artists that are around here, and you're definitely a part of the whole culture around here. So
Thanks, man. I mean, I think that's starting to happen. You know, I think I've been a huge part of that. You know, I don't want to say, shucks, no, like, you know, no, definitely.
No, it was me.
2007, I directed Hedwig and the Angry Inch at the Baronet Theater, which is no longer there. I walked in, put my foot through the stage, and was like, I'm trying to do Hedwig here, and we did, and it was a success. People were still afraid to park in Asbury Park, you know, and they since torn that whole 4th Avenue down. You know, my connections with the Asbury Lane started then, and you know, those people are still in Asbury Park as long as they don't get pushed out, which is starting to happen. But you know, I feel like we have been a part of driving that artistic thing, you know, and I've heard that from a lot of fellow musicians who are watching. You know, maybe they ain't coming out to shows, but they are cheering it out and supporting, and you know, I'm really happy with that. It's a good place to be, a good place to get stuck in too, you know. But I'm not a Bruce Springsteen fan. I never really followed, not because I don't like it, just I never really followed that. It wasn't part of my thing. Some of my bandmates are, and I've watched some stuff that I'm like super impressed by. I think it's awesome, and I understand why it's built this thing, you know, but it's not, I don't really have a connection to that.
Yeah, and there's cool, like, you know, it's so funny, like Nicole Atkins, like even now, like I'll see her like eating a toast or something, I'll be like, that's not, oh, okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
Like I don't bother her, but I'm like, that's weird, you know. Or the dudes from one of the dudes from Brick and Mortar lives in Asbury. You see him walking around. Like there's all. It's not like it's like, oh, this is rock. Like there's all different kinds of music around here.
And they've all, you know, now I guess, you know, when you notice in a community there is a difference. You know, like we were saying, there's people who are, I'm all right with hanging here, and then there are those people who are like overly driven and ambitious. And you know, now all of our circles are together. The Brick and Mortar guys I'm working with. You know, John plays drums with us right now.
Oh, nice.
For, you know, kind of filling in stuff, and he's amazing to work with. And from the jump, like literally first eye contact, you're like, I get this person, I get the vibe, we're in, I'm down. And that's you know why I've shifted a lot of roles and people that I'm working with. You know, it's that thing that I need to latch onto. Like that's what we need right now. Is that selfish? Yes, it is. You know, I got the momentum. I'm going with this. People are gonna trust me, or they ain't down. It's fine. No hard feelings. You know, it's a business, and I need to take it to the next level. You know, that's the goal. That's the goal.
As far as like too, it's like kind of romantic in the sense of Asbury Park being this like decaying city and then rising, and now it's become like this opulent kind of, you know, it ebbs and flows. It is society. This is what happens, is where it goes from one place, it goes to the other, and then it kind of maybe hopefully doesn't go back to where it was.
Right.
But I mean, you know, and I've talked to other people on the podcast about this idea of like this love-hate of, you know, it's the Asbury Lanes versus, you know, what it was versus like the Asbury Hotel, like the two huge spectrums of what's happened. You know, Asbury Lanes then, Asbury Lanes now. But, you know, where do you kind of fit in as far as, do you see it as like just, I don't want to call it progress, because I mean there's a lot of, you know, there's a lot of magic lost in between that.
Oh yeah.
But do you see, you know, do you see like do you see the value in it? Do you you know, there's a lot of people, especially on social media, because, you know, that's where people complain, like talking about how things have changed. But
I'd be foolish not to see the value in it, you know, especially in the position that I'm in, or as a business owner, or like, you know, I have great relationships with everyone old and new, you know, and that's important to me. It's important to maintain those and to speak realistically. You know, had a long history with the Lanes and Jen Hampton, and that shit was special to me as a nostalgia freak, as a vibe freak.
So cool. So there's no better venue than just going there.
That was my spot. You know, definitely, and that was a big part of the weird there. You know, would do some burlesque stuff and be, you know, like it was huge for me. And as part of Hedwig and the Angry Inch happening, they were a huge part of seeing that through. And Jen, especially Jen Hampton. But you know, I got to cheer on what it is now too. My dad, for example, who is a human being and somebody's feelings who is worth, as a consumer, worth understanding, didn't like going to the Lanes before. Yeah. You know, he's like, I couldn't even take a piss in the bathroom. Like, what am I doing here?
It was always broken.
Yeah. Which, like, for me, like, LOL, I'm down, you know, but for him, who is, for him, like, he's willing to spend money and willing to enjoy a night out. Yeah. You know, he's not a curmudgeon. He loves live music. He loves entertainment and wants to support it. Is going to go to the new Lanes. You know what I mean? Like, it has a different audience and a different thing, which you can't rule out. You know, and I can't be ignorant to my position as an entertainer and what I could provide to these people. So, it is weird. I mean, it's definitely, I went in there and was like, it was emotional, but in a good way too. Like, wow, you know, this was somebody's vision come to life. This is a new direction for this place. I may agree or disagree or whatever. That don't really matter. It is what it is. It's standing, and I can make the choices that I'd like to make.
Yeah, we're here now. So, you know, the thing that I like to see, especially with like House of Independence, is, you know, they hired people that were working, you know.
Sure, Mike is there, Lawrence. Yeah.
So, like, it's cool to see that part of it. It's not these randos that like show up and you don't have a, you know, there's certain places that I've been to around town where it's like, where are you from, dude? You're not from around here, you know? But it's nice to see that when, you know, the certain DJs getting gigs, James Vance getting gigs, like Foggy Notion getting gigs, that were playing these like not so great venues, and now they're part of the scene now. That's awesome to see, you know?
Yeah, we had like Prestige, DJ Prestige, and who was the other dude? Jack the Ripper, you know, like from the Lanes, he would spin the records with us. And when we started doing stuff at the hotel, I said, I want Jack the Ripper on that, you know, and it's just a vibe. You know, we got a good vibe. Are these people the most brilliant thing going? It don't matter. It's really about the energy and keeping that community together. It's just so important. And that's why it's a large band. You know, it goes right back to that. You know, and the press actually has interviewed me a couple times to talk about that. Like, why do you like these spots? Because we released our album at Convention Hall. We were the first band to do that. You know, like a local act. Before the Front Bottoms, before anybody was really going in there to do a show, you know, we had 1,000 people up in there, and that was their question. You love this, right? Like, you love these old ass places falling apart to bring in these shows. Like, yeah, I do. You know, there's a certain nostalgic feeling to it that matches the sound and matches the energy, and you know, it's in my opinion. I've always loved that stuff, and I like the weird New Jersey shit. You know, I like the abandoned. Let's break into these spots. You know, you just feel that sort of energy. I'm sure there's a definition, but I don't even know what it is. And I like that. And Asbury Park has felt like that. And it's starting not to in a lot of ways, which, you know, is probably another podcast worth of conversation. But, you know, I'm going to be a part of it. And I know I can provide something to every single person in some way, you know, and I know that's part of my strength and part of what I do. So it would, like I said, it would be really ignorant of me to say, nah, fuck it, you know.
It's also the people too. It's not just about like the buildings that were there or the buildings that, you know, hopefully will remain, you know, for as long as possible, but it's also about the people. Like, they kind of make up the culture in the area. So when we're talking about these different people performing, DJs that you're in touch with, putting things together, I mean, they're a big part of it. And people sometimes, especially on, you know, Facebook, will like, every time there's Asbury Lanes is doing a show, somebody's like, man, it's not a lane anymore. I'm like, all right, dude, we get it. Like, just relax. But, you know, people are still working. There's still beautiful things going on. So you kind of have to roll with the punches.
Shit has to evolve, you know, and there is money there. A lot, you know.
Yeah, now, I mean, they're celebrating because it's like, well, there was nothing. People were getting, you know, sometimes they're getting shot at still, but they're not getting shot at as much, you know. So, like, we got that going for us. So let's stay positive.
Welcome to Asbury Park. You're not getting shot at as much. Yeah, no, totally. You know, that's a real thing, and it's starting to expand, you know, to the west side, and like we did a pop-up thing in Springwood Park last summer that was just awesome and super cool, and there was a moment. You know, this woman who most likely homeless, definitely drunk. He was dancing her ass off in the front, just like living her life, you know. Everybody, you could tell, were getting a little annoyed by it because she was stealing some of the focus. So I went right over to her, I grabbed her and brought her up on the stage. And so many people after that came up to me and said, that's what this is about. Like, that's why you're playing in this area. You know, these are real human beings who are feeling something, and we have maybe alienated them in some way, consciously or not, you know, like we've left out a huge demographic of this area, you know, and that happens in the music community with the hip hop community and stuff like that. And you know, maybe 808s was sort of my way of how do we branch this together, because we do have hip hop artists as a part of that show. But I didn't think of it like, ooh, let me capitalize. You know, it was just, this is a part of my life too. You know, this sound and this attitude and this, you know, culture has been such a huge part of my life. I can't be ignorant to that either, you know. So you know, I understand there are a lot of good people who are really trying to do the right thing in a lot of places versus people who are like, it's money, it's money, it's money.
Yeah. I mean, it's creeping all the way up Main Street. It's just like going all the way north. Like you could see it. They're fixing up the buildings.
Yeah, there's
doing
a dollar
stuff.
store now. You know, no, definitely.
Moving on.
Yes, no, definitely. And you know, it's really cool to be a part of it. You know, I don't know what would happen if I started Remember Jones now. You know, I think that's part of the luck. You know, there is luck, of course, in all of this. You know, it's just got lucky. You know, second Remember Jones show selling out. The first one we did too, but the second one, like, you know, doing the Amy thing, people were hashtagging Remember Jones like we were some national thing from the jump, and really, I had no idea what was going on. I knew I didn't sleep for a whole week because I was trying to put a show together, and I wasn't even happy with my performance because I was wasted, tired, you know. But you know, maybe we just got lucky, and maybe we started at the right time when it came to that.
Yeah,
stuff.
but the difference is like what I think of opportunity and luck is you were there ready for it.
Yeah.
And there's people that the train is coming into the station and they just kind of step back and it goes, whereas you were like, oh, this is an opportunity. So yeah, you could say it's luck and you could be all humble about it, but there's also a part of it where you have the drive and the foresight to be like, this is an opportunity, I'm going to take it, you know?
Definitely. And I think, like we were talking about motivational speaker, all that kind of stuff, down the line for me, and maybe sooner than later, I'd like to kind of start a music group, kind of be able to offer my, you know, services, I guess they would turn into at some point as a manager, as A&R, as promotions and booking, and you know, with the people that I've worked with, musical arrangements, producing, all of this stuff, which, you know, we don't really have. I'm saying this and somebody's gonna snatch the damn idea anyway. But you know, we don't really have that, so that's something that's in the works for me to be able to kind of head up. And you know, I see artists all the time where, as a bad audience member, I say, man, I'd love to fix this, or I'd love to throw my 2 cents in and or help this person along, and a lot of younger acts or otherwise, you know. There's a lot of older cats who, you know, I did the Asbury Holiday show, which was a huge thing at the Paramount. It was like super cool, and they tried a few times, mostly unsuccessfully, to bridge like older acts with younger, and the one that worked out the best, definitely, and not just saying this, I was a part of it, was me and it was me and Lance Larson, who was like a name here in 70s, 80s, you know, like people like really, really loved this dude for his like high energy performances and like over the top stuff. And he's been seeing me. He's been coming to shows, came to my theater, saw Jekyll and Hyde like twice, you know, and just coming up to me and being like, Lance and Debbie's Wonder Bar. He's like a part of the Wonder Bar. You know, like, oh man, I just love what you're doing. I love what you're doing. And I wasn't around. I don't know his history, you know. So we did a Joe Cocker tune together at this show, and it was electrifying. I mean, ridiculous. He was ripping over his shirt. I mean, I was running around. We were like doing this, and the dude is double my age, you know. So the audience stood up to their feet, and most people said, you know, that was the moment of that show that stole the show. And he was just so grateful, kissing me on the cheek throughout the thing, you know, and like, that's awesome. You know, that makes me feel like I'm doing something good, you know, and I'm doing something right. And you know, inspiring younger people is a thing, but inspiring people who've lived, you know, a lot longer than I have is that's magical. You know, that shit's super cool. So I try not to overthink of it. I try to keep doing me and keep doing my thing, and not get the ego going, and just keep my arms around people and keep kissing babies and shit. You know, you know what I mean? Like it's you know, just got to keep the good vibes and you know, celebrate everybody's everything. You know, it's very, very hard.
Well, I mean,
it's real.
That's I think a good note to leave it on. I think.
Yes,
I mean,
totally local. Celebrate everybody's everything.
I like it.
Boom.
That's the tagline for this week's episode.
Perfect.
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you so much,
This was
Anthony,
awesome.
for coming out here and doing this.
Was that an hour? How long was that? Keep going.
I mean,
I think we're about
that's an hour and a half,
Yeah.
and that doesn't even count me and you having a half-hour conversation before.
I'm fueled by Duncan. You can hear the jingle of the ice. You know.
Yeah. Just thank you so much, and I'm looking forward to you. Growing your band, growing, and seeing what you're going to be doing for years to come. Whether you have a 5-year plan or not, I think somebody has a 5-year plan for you. So,
I hope so. Thanks, guys.
Yeah,
awesome.
thanks.
Anytime.
And I can't.
Also, 808 and Heartbreaks is going to be, plug your dates.
February 15th at Brooklyn Bowl. February 16th at House of Independence in Asbury Park. It's going to be large in
I will
charge.
definitely be there.
Well, you're on the list, so
That's why I'll be there.
swindle. He's like, I wasn't paying full price, but I'm there. Y'all got a Groupon for that show?
Oh man! All right, thanks guys. I'll dub in the theme song after I'm done.
I don't think you have to say that. I think you just dub it in.
I like saying it because then I cut it in. You probably didn't listen to that one we were talking about. Like, oh, we don't have it ready. We'll just dub in, and dubs in. Thanks to Ming. Anyway, thanks to Ming, a Shared Universe podcast studio as always. Thank you, Leo. Thanks to our guest Anthony for coming in. Remember Jones. And tune in. TotallyLocalPodcast.com. Find us on Facebook and everywhere else. Instagram. Totally_local_podcast. Leo set that up. I don't know why it's like that. All right. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.
Bye, guys.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
That was great.
Thank you so much.
Talking's fun. I like talking. I keep talking. Tired guy, though. See if anybody watch. Anybody watch?